An Ethiopian Airlines Boeing 737 MAX 8 crashes, killing more than 150 people. North Koreans go to the polls. And China's central bank governor reaffirms no manipulation of the yuan to boost exports.
Good evening. An Ethiopian Airlines passenger plane with more than 150 on board has crashed on a flight from Addis Ababa to the Kenyan capital of Nairobi. There were no survivors and no immediate details on what caused the crash. The aircraft was the same type of plane involved in the deadly Lion Air crash in Indonesia last year. A terrible sense of déjà vu in the aviation world today as another Boeing 737 MAX 8 crashed shortly after takeoff. This time it was Ethiopian Airlines flight ET302 with 149 passengers and 8 crew, which was heading from Addis Ababa to Kenya's capital Nairobi. Ethiopian officials say the flight departed the airport at Addis Ababa at 8:38 a.m. local time before losing contact with the control tower just a few minutes after takeoff. The plane reportedly crashed near the town of Bishoftu, 62 kilometres southeast of the capital. The Prime Minister's office sent condolences via Twitter to the families of those lost in the crash. State-owned Ethiopian Airlines is one of the biggest and most modern carriers in Africa with a good safety reputation. Its last major accident was in January 2010 when a flight from Beirut went down shortly after takeoff. The aircraft used in today's doomed flight was Boeing's latest version of the venerable 737, the MAX. The same type of aircraft was involved in last October's deadly crash in Indonesia, which saw a Lion Air plane plunge into the sea shortly after takeoff from Jakarta. Air crash investigators may want to see if the two incidents are linked and whether it warrants a further examination of the global 737 MAX fleet.
Earlier, another crash involving a DC-3 aircraft in the South American country of Colombia left 14 people dead. The plane was operated by Laser Air Service. It was en route from the country's south to a central city when it made a distress call on Saturday. Officials said everyone on board died. Colombia's President Iván Duque sent his condolences to the victims' families and said authorities are working to identify the remains. The DC-3 is a propeller-driven aircraft that was first produced in the 1930s. Meanwhile, 30 people were injured on a Turkish Airlines plane during severe turbulence over the Atlantic Ocean. People suffered mainly minor injuries like bruises and cuts, but one person suffered a broken leg. Dozens of ambulances were lined up at the terminal when the flight from Istanbul arrived safely at John F. Kennedy Airport in New York. It was the second mishap of the day involving a plane in the New York area. Nearby, Newark Liberty International Airport closed its runways after a flight from Montreal to Fort Lauderdale made an emergency landing with smoke in its cargo hold. All 189 passengers were safely evacuated. No fire was found, and the cause of the smoke remains under investigation.
British Home Secretary Sajid Javid is facing strong criticism after the death of the baby belonging to Shamima Begum, the teenager who left the UK to join the Islamic State. British Home Secretary Sajid Javid is under fire after the death of a UK teenager's baby in a Syrian refugee camp. Shamima Begum's infant son died on Friday. Begum's family said the boy appeared to be in good health when he was born last month. No clear cause of death has yet been given, but reports suggested he was having respiratory problems. Begum, who had left London as a 15-year-old in 2015 to join the Islamic State terror group, had pleaded with British authorities before her baby was born to let her return to the UK to raise the child. But Javid revoked her passport, saying Begum hadn't shown any remorse over joining a group which was responsible for terror attacks on Britain, other parts of Europe and throughout the Middle East. British media reports say 2 more women from the UK have also had their citizenship revoked for joining ISIS. Begum had told reporters she didn't have a problem with ISIS actions, including the beheading of captives. But some of Javid's fellow Conservative Party lawmakers are questioning whether the Home Secretary has taken too hard a line.
First of all, when the Home Secretary, Sajid Javid, told the House of Commons that he had decided that he would revoke her citizenship, I and several others questioned whether this was the right decision, not because we were in any way impugning his motives. He has a duty to keep people safe in Britain, but because statelessness is the wrong answer to this problem. The truth is that this girl needs to be, if she comes back to Britain, we need to accept that, because we have in Britain the structures, the legal structures, the intelligence structures, the court structures to process her. If she's left in ungoverned territory, in the statelessness of Syria or elsewhere, she will be consorting with people who wish us ill.
When Begum first started speaking to the media, she said the first 2 children she had given birth to since joining ISIS had died. She said she wanted to return home so she didn't lose another child. Her predicament has sparked a national debate on how the UK should handle Britons who have joined extremists, but now seek to return because ISIS has lost territory in Syria and Iraq. Staying in the UK, and British police briefly shut London's Westminster Bridge and roads close to Parliament and the capital's police headquarters yesterday due to a suspicious vehicle. Images on social media showed a heavy police presence at the central London location that is popular with tourists. The roads were later reopened. The UK is on its second highest level of terrorism alert after 5 attacks in 2017 killed a total of 36 people.
Britain's House of Commons leader says European Union officials need to take seriously British proposals for ending the Brexit impasse before a crucial vote in Parliament this week. Andrea Leadsom says she finds it extraordinary that EU leaders are being so intransigent.
There is still hope, but I have to say I'm deeply disappointed with what we're hearing coming out of the EU. I mean, firstly, we still don't know what you want. How can they possibly say that? Secondly, we've put no clear proposals. That's simply not true. And thirdly, Michel Barnier today tweeting that he's offering us for Great Britain to exit the backstop and leave Northern Ireland behind. Well, the Prime Minister ruled that out months ago and the EU agreed. So I do have to ask myself, what game are they playing here?
Leadsom's harsh words and Britain's immediate rejection of a proposal offered Friday by EU negotiator Michel Barnier signal exasperation ahead of Tuesday's crucial vote. Leadsom says the EU is pushing Britain towards a no-deal Brexit. She says that would, paradoxically, make it much harder to avoid a hard border between Ireland and Northern Ireland, which both sides say they are trying to prevent.
Millions of North Korean voters, including leader Kim Jong-un, went to the polls today to elect a new lineup of roughly 700 members of the next national parliament. Still, the vote was more of an endorsement than a competitive contest in a country that is ruled as a dictatorship. Voters were presented with just one state-sanctioned candidate per seat and cast their ballots not to select, but rather to show their approval or disapproval of that candidate. The elections, last held in 2014, are for the entire Supreme People's Assembly. A mainland newspaper has reported that a US federal court has issued a summons in relation to the Chinese tech giant Huawei's lawsuit against the US government. The Global Times published the document, which is circulated online. It was said to be the summons issued by a federal court in Texas to the US government, Department of Justice and other departments. The court requires a response from the US government within 60 days after receiving the summons, otherwise it will be regarded as losing the lawsuit by default. The Chinese tech giant Huawei has sued the US government in an attempt to overturn what it called an unlawful ban over its products.
China's central bank governor reaffirmed an official promise today to avoid manipulating its currency to boost exports. It was an issue Yi Gang said American and Chinese negotiators discuss in their latest talks aimed at ending their country's trade war. Yi gave no indication the two sides reached agreements beyond previous commitments proclaimed at the meeting of the Group of 20 major economies. Speaking on the sidelines of the National People's Congress, Yi said both sides should adhere to the principle of market-determined exchange rate regime.
And still ahead on the news tonight.
More than 260 people arrested in a crackdown on illegal gambling in game centres. New initiatives by the Tourism Board to attract more business travellers to the city. And a trove of Einstein papers unveiled in Jerusalem.
I thought maybe we could do something different tonight.
Monopoly?
Gonna have to ask you to get down. Past the gateway, wives aren't even allowed. There's much more excitement to come.
Monday, The Handmaid's Tale at 10:40 on Pearl's signature Monday. In the midst of southern Spain's barren landscape, the Moors built Alhambra Castle in the 13th century as a lush oasis of life, a real-life Garden of Eden to connect man with nature. Tuesday, Oriental Watch Company Spectacular Tuesday presents Wild Castles at 9:35 on Pearl.
Dreaming of a family getaway? Collect 10 nights with Hotels.com and you'll get one night free. Hotels.com. Reward yourself.
I don't know why I'm sleeping.
These people never seem to worry about what they eat or how much they exercise. Just how do they manage to stay slim?
She eats rubbish, and I'm very envious of how much rubbish she eats, actually.
Wednesday, the truth about slim people at 8:30 on Pearl's Wellbeing.
Sydney Harbour gathers a multitude of spectators for the December 26th start of the Rolex Sydney Hobart Yacht Race. The 74th edition of this Blue Water Classic will witness an epic confrontation between the world's most powerful super maxis. A battle resolved only within sight of the finish line in Tasmania. For all 85 entries, just concluding this unforgiving challenge is reward in itself. The Rolex Sydney Hobart Yacht Race, coming soon on the Spirit of Yachting.
This watch has seen moments that last a second and moments that last forever. It's seen the elements at their worst and performances that conquer all. Yet it's not until we look back that we understand that at those very moments, we were standing on the edge of yachting history. It doesn't just tell time, it tells history.
Welcome back. A police operation targeting drug trafficking and illegal gambling in game centers resulted in more than 260 arrests. As Kana Chu reports, the youngest person arrested is only 16 years old.
More than 400 gambling machines and some $100,000 worth of drugs. These are some of the seizures the police yielded last night in an anti-triad operation covering more than 40 locations. According to the police, the targeted syndicate made use of licensed gaming centers to operate gambling machines. The syndicate extracts 10 to 20% commissions from customers' winnings.
They will go to adjust the setting and the difficulty of those gaming machines. Sometimes they will set it at an easier level to attract those customers. And sometimes when more customers play in that machine, they will they will adjust the difficulty to a higher level. They will sometimes will provide some discount so to attract those customers from other AGCs.
The syndicate in question sold and gave out drugs to customers on site as well. Nearly 700 police and immigration officers participated in the operation. The raids resulted in 267 arrests, with 80 of the people being non-ethnic Chinese. A social worker deems it necessary to pay attention to youngsters who may be engaging in gambling in gaming centers.
They can use the money to change the money into a card form. When they enjoy the game, after that, someone in the black market can exchange the game card into the Hong Kong dollar. It's totally illegal.
He called on the government to ban gaming centers from operating after midnight. Kana Chu, TVB News.
The hospital authority has found no issue after looking through patient records of a doctor suspected of taking marijuana while on duty. The doctor in question worked in the accident and emergency department of Chuen Mun Hospital According to Secretary for Food and Health, Sophia Chan, patient records this month have been inspected, from which no inappropriate treatment was discovered. To ensure safety, she said records from the past 3 months will also be examined. Well, the city saw a record high in the number of visitors last year, but more than half were day trippers. As Christy Leung reports, the Hong Kong Tourism Board is planning to attract more business travellers who usually spend more during their visit.
Praying to the Chinese god of love and tying the red knots to wish for a good marriage. This group of travel agents from Thailand are having a taste of some Chinese rituals in the Wong Tai Sin Temple.
Hong Kong seems to be a perfect choice for us because Hong Kong there is so many temples, and Thai people we respect for the temple. This is a must come.
Apart from leisure travelers, they also design itineraries for business visitors.
We have Wong Tai Sin here, and we have Man Mo Temple. We add temple to our itinerary, even leisure group and absolutely for MICE group.
MICE stands for Meetings, Incentives, Conferences and Exhibitions. Last year, the city recorded close to 2 million MICE visitors. That's a 2.1% rise when compared with the previous year. And there were even double-digit increases among those from Thailand, South Korea and Japan. They usually spend more than the other overnight visitors. Their per capita expenditure during their stay last year was around $8,500. That's why the Tourism Board has rolled out new suggested itineraries in accordance with their preferences, said Kenneth Wong, the General Manager of MICE and Cruise of the board. With the opening of the Express Rail link and the mega bridge connecting the city with Macau and Zhuhai, the Tourism Board will also recommend to these travellers the inclusion of Macau and Shenzhen into their trips. Christy Leung, TVB News.
Venezuela's government and opposition loyalists held rival demonstrations in Caracas as both sides prepare for what could be a protracted power struggle. This comes as power outages in the country continued for a third straight day. Alan Buknia reports.
Hundreds gathered at a rally in Caracas to denounce crippling U.S. sanctions aimed at cutting off funding sources for President Nicolas Maduro's government. Maduro blamed the country's worst blackout in decades on electromagnetic and cyber attacks by the U.S., which backs the opposition. He said power outages were caused by high-level technology that only the United States has. In another part of the city, opposition leader and self-declared President Juan Guaido blamed the blackouts on 2 decades of government corruption and mismanagement. He said the Maduro government has no way to solve the electricity problem it created itself. Guaido was speaking from the top of a van because earlier protesters clashed with police who prevented them from setting up a stage. Oil-rich Venezuela, once Latin America's richest country, is now dealing with widespread shortages and hyperinflation. This woman said it's not just medicine they no longer have, it's basics like water. Children are dying. People in hospitals who need care are dying. Meanwhile, more than 30% of Venezuela continues to be without electricity. In Caracas, normally not prone to outages, power continues to flicker on and off. And while most stores remain closed, one shopkeeper found an innovative solution for staying open and ensuring his customers his food is safe for consumption. He attached car batteries to his cash register and refrigerator. This customer says because of the heat, her food at home is spoiled, and it's difficult to find a place with food that's safe. Alan Buknia, TVB News.
The Yellow Vest protests in France continued for a 17th straight weekend, demonstrating against the high cost of living. There was a flash mob protest at Paris's Charles de Gaulle Airport. Nearly 150 Yellow Vests demonstrated inside the airport's Terminal 1. It lasted about an hour and was largely peaceful, but demonstrators on the Champs-Élysées were pushed back by water cannon as sporadic clashes broke out between police and protesters. About 3,000 turned out in Paris, the lowest number of demonstrators so far.
Over to Israel, where the Hebrew University has unveiled a treasure trove of documents that belong to Albert Einstein. It's their way of celebrating his upcoming 140th birthday. This is a magnificent collection of manuscripts by the German-born theoretical physicist who developed the theory of evolution. In them are handwritten mathematical notes, mostly from 1944 to 1948.
These papers reflect the way Einstein was thinking, the way Einstein was working. They are summaries of his thoughts. Whenever something struck him, a new idea, he sat down immediately, scribbled it, looking for its consequences.
One puzzle has been solved thanks to one page that had never been seen before because it was missing for 90 years. It's part of an appendix to Einstein's paper on unified field theory, presented to the Prussian Academy of Science in 1930. It was one of many of Einstein's attempts to unify the forces of nature into one single theory, an effort he devoted 3 decades of his life to. Showing a more human side to the physicist are personal letters as well. One features Einstein expressing shame for not knowing the Hebrew language. In a 1935 letter to his son, Hans Albert, Einstein expresses concern about the rise of the Nazi Party in Germany. Einstein settled in the United States after renouncing his German citizenship when Adolf Hitler came to power. He willed his scientific and personal writings to the Hebrew University. This latest trove was originally purchased from a private collector in North Carolina. Now it's been donated to the Hebrew University's 80,000-item Albert Einstein archives. It comes just in time to celebrate Einstein's 140th birthday on March 14th.
A lot has still to be found out about the context and contexts of these pages. So a lot of research will still have to be done, and this in itself opens a new vista, is very exciting.
Einstein, who won the 1921 Nobel Prize for Physics, died in New Jersey in 1955. All right, Tony, what do you have for us today?
We have some more badminton.
Okay.
Denmark's Victor Axelsen will play top seed Kento Momota of Japan in the final of the All England Badminton Championships. Momota eliminated Hong Kong's Angus Ng in 2 games. The scores were 21-19 and 21-11. Momota won last year's World Championships in Nanjing and will be playing in his first title match in Birmingham. Axelsen defeated defending champion Shi Yuqi of China in the other semi-final. To tennis, and Indian Wells and Japan's Naomi Osaka cruised past Kristina Mladenovic of France 6-3 and 6-4. Osaka avenged a loss to the French woman 2 weeks ago in Dubai. The defending champion and world number 1 will next face American Danielle Collins in the 3rd round. Other winners in the California desert included Venus Williams, Karolina Pliskova and Angelique Kerber. However, 13th seed Caroline Wozniacki fell to Ekaterina Alexandrova of Russia in straight sets. Bayern Munich is back on top of the Bundesliga after thrashing Wolfsburg 6-0. Robert Lewandowski scored a brace. His first goal was his 196th in Germany's top flight. That's a record for a non-German. The Polish striker now has 17 goals for the season. The defending league champions lead Borussia Dortmund on goal difference. Dortmund down Stuttgart 3-1. Black and yellow stood on the mountaintop for much of the season. Basketball, and the Boston Celtics routed the fading Lakers in their latest edition of their storied rivalry. Former teammates Kyrie Irving and LeBron James scored 30 points apiece. Gordon Hayward added 15 off the bench for the Celtics. The final score was Boston 120, LA 107. The Celtics have won 3 straight as they gear up for the playoffs. Meanwhile, the Lakers announced they are shutting down young stars Brandon Ingram and Lonzo Ball for the rest of the season.
And from all of us, thanks for joining us.
Bye for now. Good night.
After 3 years of renovation, the Avenue of Stars has recently reopened. How was it redesigned to make visitors more comfortable? Also, the story of a young woman who turned away from modeling to run a company in the male-dominated construction industry. Pearl Magazine, Monday night at 8.
I have never done anything this important in my entire life.
It's a rocky road.
This is my worst nightmare.
Oh dear. To being named.
A remarkable, delicious dish.
Thank you, Chef.
Monday, MasterChef Junior, Season 5, at 8:30 on Pearl.
寶、細寶、大寶、大細都保。銀行有存款就自動受保，保利高達港幣50萬，其他貨幣存款一樣保。